What was it like? What was it like growing up for you?
So I grew up in Pennsylvania, Northwest Pennsylvania, freezing. It was my mom and dad and a younger brother. We also had a brother in between us that died when he was 1. I would have been like 2. So I don't really remember him, but I remember pictures. Like if I look at pictures, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that. My parents got saved, I believe, after I was born or either after Jason had passed. And then they started going to church and took us. And I went to Christian school up through high school, graduated from there. My parents still attend that same church. I know, it's a long time. But yeah, I have great memories of my childhood. I do remember sitting and doing little devotions sometimes, like once or twice we did those. But it was great. I have great memories of my childhood. I do. I do remember feeling like, though, as I got older, like high school and college, like not pushing the envelope on things, but just like asking questions like, why do we do that way? Why do we always, or why is that not allowed? Like just certain things that came up in the system. I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. Like,
all right, so celebrating growth. Mm-hmm. What are some things, Jess, that you used to believe that you don't believe anymore? And thinking back to those things, when you used to believe those things, what did it do to your emotions, your health, just your general outlook on life? How have you grown?
I would say one of the biggest things is that I believed that God was out there, right? And so, come to me, come on in, Holy Spirit come, and not realizing He's literally one with me. So He's already there. And growing up too, just seeing like it was always a striving to try to get to where He was. And always inviting Him in, not getting the fact that He was already one with us. Like He can't get any closer than He is right now. And I think being a woman in the church, and this might ruffle some feathers maybe, but I feel like the church system has failed women in that we aren't necessarily valued as health and wholeness was never a thing. Just in my personal life growing up witnessing, it was always you sacrificed everything, and putting yourself first in everything was always selfish. But I've learned in the last several years that I cannot care for everybody else around me if I'm not whole and well. So just believing that He's far off, He's not close, and that myself is not worthy or valuable enough to put work into, and time and effort, and to care for myself and make sure that I'm whole in every area. Because if I'm whole in one area and not the other, that's not wholeness. That's right.
So do you think with you was it just an all of a sudden, like what really sparked that kind of awareness that you needed to take care of you?
Well, honestly, we had moved from Florida. We had moved to North Carolina because the Lord asked us to sell our house and move. So we moved with nothing, basically. And I saw a Facebook post of a lady that ran a wellness and fitness ministry. And it was a picture of women who had, with permanent marker on their arms, whole, free, loved, enough, all those things. And I was like, okay, what's that all about? I've never seen the combination of Jesus and fitness in one. But the more I researched it and just looked at it, it made sense. And to learn, as He revealed to me, that He cares about how I feel. And it wasn't about the weight, it wasn't about anything. It was about feeling strong and being as whole and healthy as I could be, because that's who He made me to be. So it kind of started there, and just the more that Mark and I grew and the things that Holy Spirit and Jesus revealed to us, it just kind of kept flowing. And I would say it was a slow, but yeah, seemed fast at times. Like, okay, but yeah.
Do you think is there anything that will pop its head up from now and then, and try to drag you back a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Especially being a mom and a wife, right? Like, I need 5 minutes. Well, no, you don't. You should be serving your family. Well, I think I'm going to serve my family better if I take 5 minutes and go for a walk, or just sit with Jesus and just get a different perspective on what's going on around me. But that belief that He's out there somewhere, not walking with me in the moment, is huge. So there's times like, when life gets tough and you lose a job or you're whatever's happening, and there seems to be chaos, the truth that he's right here is so freeing, because I don't have to strive to get him out there. He's here, and he's inviting me in to just sit with him and rest.
What are some things that when you believed that he was out there and then you needed to kind of lasso him or convince him to come this way or make yourself more holy or whatever so that you could go into his presence?
Right.
What were some of your go-tos in your tool belt that you would use to either move him or help move you into his presence?
Oh, it was always like, you got to pray harder. Or you need to go sit and you need to lock yourself in a room, in a closet for an hour, and you need to pray until you hear from him. Not realizing that I could go for a walk, or I could do something I enjoy, like bake cookies, and in that moment he could speak to me just as clearly. And honestly, probably I could hear him. And yeah, that tool belt has changed for sure. There's no more of the like, I have to hear from you, I have to do these things, because it doesn't work. Yeah. At least for me.
So your health and wellness, because I know I so appreciate the conversation of wellness that you bring. So as far as emotionally and just health-wise, what has this shift of your beliefs done to you, even physically?
Yeah, well, it definitely brings you rest, right, and peace, and realizing that he is the person of peace. So it's not something that we're striving after or trying to attain, because if we're one with him, then we have all of him. So really, I know the biggest opposition, I know that's a question, but the biggest opposition is yourself sometimes.
Yeah, that's right.
And I know he spoke to me a few years ago, I'm removing the veil. And I thought it was for a message at church that I was given, and I think it was deeper than that, and more so for me. I've removed that veil, and I am removing that veil. You don't have to try and get through it anymore. I want to go back to what I said about the church system kind of failing women. I'm not saying that's every church system, obviously, but I just growing up, even just seeing things around me, it was you were selfish and you were self-focused. If you took any time for you, if you tried to present yourself in a way that, whatever. When we feel better, we do better.
Yeah.
And he wants us to care for ourselves.
Yeah.
And there's there's scientific proof in when you're moving your body and when you're feeding it and fueling it the right way, it can heal itself. And a lot of trauma and pain is healed through just your body healing itself when you give it what it needs. And that connection with neural pathways and movement and putting truth in just to replace old lies and hurts.
So from this perspective now, does God ever speak to you? Does he ever speak to you kind of in a way that's unexpected from what you used to believe?
Yes. I started running, right? I don't currently run. But when I was running often, that was my secret place. I wasn't sitting in a closet or even on a couch with a, paper and pen and just waiting for him to speak to me or for me to be encouraged somehow. I would run and I would hear him. I know it was him. He was talking to me one time about songs and books that people are writing. That's just as much his communication, his words to us today as it was when men wrote the Bible. And it was like a light bulb. I know it seems simple maybe, but I was running, I'm like, oh, yeah, why not?
Right.
Why is
his voice?
It hasn't changed. So why do we disregard things that people are writing and singing today like it wasn't him?
And going back to just the church, and as a woman, and yes, it seems like, typical what you're invited in to do in the church a lot of times is nursery or greeting or hospitality and these kind of things. And what's attached to that is, and it depends on whatever church. Some churches are more, more open to whatever, but there are some boundaries that you can't cross. And I think as women, we accept that a lot of times. I accepted for years, I didn't question these boundaries that the church was setting up. And so, but then I started recognizing, okay, these boundaries, they say that you don't trust me, or that you don't trust my wisdom,
Right.
that I have to run, what's coming in out of my heart has to go through some filter of somebody in authority over me, or it's not valid or trustworthy. And so as a mom, like with like all these doctrines, we're gonna say to a 5-year-old girl. So like as a mom, what would you say to, what would your message be to our daughters that are currently in degrees taking those doctrines into themselves, about themselves?
Right.
So what would you say to those moms or kids? Either way.
Yeah. The church is a hard conversation, right? Because it's the system. And there's system everywhere. But when you put system in the church, and then, like you said, filter women's voices through some of them that have been a little bit more confining and restricting, that feels like slavery. Like, for somebody that he's spoken something to you and you have a message like that you need to get out and you can't. There's not an avenue for that. That is very prison-like. And I think just what we've taught the girls is that, my girls, is that you have a mess, like I know you hear from him. Like, they'll have dreams, they'll write notes, they'll come out with things we're like, that's crazy. So we know we're hearing from them. But you don't have to depend on the system to give you the freedom to let that out. And also just learning discernment. Like, if he's asking you to share something, then he's going to provide the way for that to come out somehow. And you're not, like, you're just not restricted. Like, you're not. Like, he will, I do believe that he will tell you sometimes to be quiet. There's been times where we both have, he said, not now. It's not the time, because it's all about the person that's in front of you. So if the person in front of you is not ready to receive what you're hearing, it's not about you getting that out. It's about your love for them and what's best for them in that situation. It may be you just being quiet right now, because he is relationship. Like, father, dad is relationship based with us. So our relationships with other people are extremely important to him, and that's going to be more important than you getting out what you feel like he's spoken to you. Because at the root of it, like, sometimes when we really sit and think, like, why do I need to say that so badly? Is it so I can get the attention for it? Is it so I feel better because I encourage them? Like, they may not be ready to receive that right now. So I've tried to teach the girls that just listen for him. Literally just walk with him. Like, you're one with him, there's union there. So walk with him and have fun in life. Like, just live your everyday life and be. It's not about doing, right? Like, you're not trying to be this thing so that you can do. Like, you're literally just being. And in that being, everything will flow out when it's supposed to. Because he loves you so much and loves everyone else around you so much that it's gonna be okay. And it's all gonna line up when it's supposed to. And for moms, like, I just think, like, we were talking about, like, health and wellness. For me, that's my thing with him. That's where I really connected with him. Because I went through, we were in ministry for how many years, and it was like, oh, you're Mark's wife, you're Pastor's Mark's wife, oh, you're Mark's wife. And what was my thing? Like, I didn't have a thing. Like, I didn't feel necessarily connected to him in any way. But when I saw that thing on Facebook, her name was Lisa Keaton, she runs Revelation Wellness, that it sparked in my spirit. There was a connection. And going through the training and going through all of that stuff, that brought me life. Like, I'm sure you can attest to that. Like, there was life. I'm like, this is it. I know it's not for everybody, but this is my thing. So for moms, like, find your thing. Like, just ask him. He wants you to find your thing because he created you with that deep desire.
Right.
It's not that, like, oh, I believe this about him, and then all of a sudden he reveals something new, and you're like, oh my word, you're that good. He was that good way back here. It wasn't that he just changed and you realized it. It's that he was that good, and he just revealed to you. Yeah. You opened yourself up and maybe asked a couple questions, like taboo questions that nobody allowed you to ask before. Like, are you really that good? Did you really do this? Did you really say that? And then when you open yourself up to be like, whatever you want to show me, I'm here for it. I'm here for it all. Yeah, to just find your thing. Find the way that you feel so connected to him, because it's hard. Like, you can't be connected anymore. There's union there, but there's something that he's created you with a passion and desire for that is going to give you life.
So looking ahead, your journey of wellness is inspiring. Like, as you dream with Holy Spirit now, where do you see yourself even going or exploring in those areas of wellness? Like, it's not striving,
Right.
but you just know, like, hey, I've started to understand this. I can't
Right.
wait to explore more
Right.
of this.
I think something that's both for Mark and I, dreams in our heart, is to offer relief for people in leadership in the church system. I just think sometimes you're not stuck, but you're so in your routine and your groove, and not even realizing, like, oh, that hurt, but you don't have time to process through that hurt or that, like, uncomfortableness, because you're just doing your thing. But I think for us, coming out of being on staff at churches for a number of years, we could see a lot of times we're like, oh, we probably could have spent some time like talking with somebody, or like valuing ourselves a little bit more, to take some time away and to reconnect, even just with our marriage and with our kids. So a dream of ours has been to offer that for other leaders to some point. I mean, a beach house really would be amazing, but just to offer, like, hey, come for the weekend and we'll do some yoga, we'll do some breath work, we'll do some exercise, we'll feed you some clean food, and we'll drink lots of water. Just to offer your whole wellness and wholeness. Because I think so many times, so many people go through life and, like, I love my job, I love my family, I love this, but I just can't figure out, like, I feel bad about myself, or there's this, like, whenever this happens in a conversation, I'm triggered. Well, let's get to the root of that. Like, why do you respond the way you do to certain things? Like, let's bring that up and work through it and invite Dad into it. And
You both have been that to us.
Yeah. When we were displaced the first time, we hadn't really talked to you. I hadn't talked to you guys. I hadn't even seen you, in a long time. And we show up at your house that night. I remember you were like, how are you? Like, really? And I was like,
You shouldn't ask that question.
and I think that, because, you get that momentum of just going, and you caused us to, I think, to stop and pause and slow down, and because we had processed, I felt, endlessly.
Yeah.
But there's a different processing, and wholeness is different. And so that was good. That was, I value that.
Like, sing more, please.
She's like, no, I'm done.
Good job. You did it.
You did
High five.
good.